I've tried to remember when things first went wrong, and the truth is they didn't start with anything dramatic. No shadows, no screams, no sudden fear. It started with small changes in the house that only made sense later, when I already knew what to be afraid of. When our parents left, the house didn't feel empty. That's the best way I can explain it. It felt occupied, like something had been waiting for the noise to leave. I didn't think that at 12 years old, of course. I just felt watched in a way I couldn't explain. The first night after the knocking, I barely slept. Emma slept deeply, like nothing bothered her at all. That scared me more than if she'd been crying. Every time I looked at her, I felt like she was somewhere else, even while she was right there in the bed next to me. During the day, things felt almost normal. Sunlight made the house feel harmless again. But Emma started doing small things that didn't feel like her. She stood too close to walls, sometimes resting her forehead against them. When I asked what she was doing, she said the wall was warm. It wasn't. She began talking less to me and more to empty rooms. Not loudly, just quiet comments, like someone might make to a pet. She laughed once in the hallway when nobody was there, and when I asked what was funny, she said he told her a joke, but she wasn't allowed to repeat it. By the second afternoon, I noticed marks on the walls near the floor. Thin lines, like something had been dragged repeatedly in the same place. I told myself it was old damage, but I kept finding them in new spots. Always low, always close together. That evening, Emma asked me a question that didn't feel like it came from her. She asked what I would do if Mom and Dad didn't come back at all. Not in a scared way, in a calm, curious way. I told her not to talk like that. She nodded and said he just wanted to know. That night, the breathing started again. It wasn't loud. It was patient, like it had all the time in the world. I sat up in bed, holding my breath, listening to it move slowly along the wall. Emma didn't wake up. She smiled in her sleep. Sometime after midnight, I heard whispering from the living room. I didn't want to go, but I couldn't stop myself. When I looked down the hallway, I saw Emma sitting on the floor, facing the corner where two walls met. She was whispering and nodding, like she was being taught something. I told her to come back to bed. She turned slowly and looked at me in a way I had never seen before. Not scared, not angry, just focused. She said she couldn't yet. He wasn't finished. I grabbed her arm, and that's when the temperature dropped. Not like cold air, like the warmth was being taken away. The lights flickered once, and the whispering stopped. From inside the wall, something knocked back. 3 times. After the knocking from inside the wall, I didn't let Emma out of my sight. I kept her in my room with the door closed, the light on, and the TV playing quietly, even though neither of us was watching it. I thought noise might help. I thought light would help. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was 12 and pretending to be in control. Emma didn't cry. That was the worst part. She was calm in a way that didn't fit what was happening. She sat on the bed, swinging her legs slowly, humming under her breath. I asked her to stop, and she looked genuinely confused, like she hadn't realized she was doing it. She said he liked the sound, said it reminded him of before. I asked, before what? She shrugged and said, before the house forgot. That sentence stuck with me. It still does. The rest of that night passed without more knocking, but I never slept. I kept waiting for the door handle to move or for the wall to start breathing again. When the sun finally came up, I felt like I'd survived something, but I didn't feel safe. It felt like whatever was in the house had just stepped back, not left. That morning, Emma asked if she could show me something. She led me to our parents' bedroom. I hated that room while they were gone. It smelled like them, and it made the house feel wrong, like it was wearing their absence. Emma walked straight to the closet and pointed at the back wall. There were drawings. They weren't done with crayons or markers. They were scratched into the paint. Simple shapes, tall figures with no faces, a smaller one next to them, and the house, drawn around all of them like a box. I asked who made them. She said, "We did." I asked who "we" was. She looked at me for a long time before answering. Then she said, "Me in the house?" I tried calling our aunt after that. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped the phone once. She didn't answer. I left a message, but my voice sounded wrong, even to me. Too fast, too scared. I don't know if she ever listened to it. By the afternoon, the house felt heavier. That's the only word that fits. Like the air had weight. Sounds didn't echo anymore. They just stopped, like the walls absorbed them. Emma started asking permission before doing things. Not from me, from the corners of rooms. She'd pause, look at an empty spot, and nod before sitting down or opening a door. When I told her to stop, she said he didn't like it when people ignored him. She asked if I liked being ignored. That night, I locked my bedroom door. I don't know why I thought that would matter. We were lying in bed when the whispering started again, this time from inside the room, not from the walls, from the space above us, like the ceiling was lowering itself inch by inch. Emma whispered back without opening her eyes. I put my hand over her mouth and she bit me hard enough to draw blood. She started crying then, real crying, and said I was being rude and that he was trying to explain something important. The knocking came back, louder this time. 3 knocks on the door, then 3 on the wall, then 3 on the closet door. It moved around the room in a pattern, like it was demonstrating something. I screamed for it to stop. Everything went quiet. After a long moment, Emma said, very softly, "He says he remembers you now." That's when the door handle turned. It didn't open. It just turned, slowly, like someone testing it. When our parents finally came back the next day, the house felt empty for the first time since they'd left. Truly empty. Like whatever had been there had stepped aside to watch from somewhere else. I tried to tell them everything. They listened until it got uncomfortable. Then they did what adults always do. They simplified it. They explained it away. They told themselves a story that made sense. Emma didn't say anything. She just stood near the wall in the hallway, touching it with her fingertips, smiling a little. That night, after our parents were asleep, she came into my room and asked if I missed him. I didn't answer. She said he told her he'd be quieter now, that he knew how to hide. After our parents came back, I kept waiting for things to go back to normal. That's what I wanted more than anything. I wanted to believe that whatever had happened was just fear, imagination, kids being left alone too long in a quiet house. Adults are good at making that explanation feel safe, and for a while, I let myself believe it too. For the first few weeks, nothing obvious happened. No knocking, no whispering, no breathing in the walls. The house felt lighter, like it had when I was younger. But Emma changed in ways that were harder to explain. She stopped playing with other kids. She preferred to stay inside, sitting near walls or doorways. Sometimes she'd lie on the floor with her ear pressed against the carpet, listening. If someone asked what she was doing, she'd say she was waiting. Waiting for what? Nobody knew. At night, she started sleepwalking. Our parents thought it was stress. I knew better. I'd wake up and hear her moving through the house, slow and careful, the same way the footsteps had sounded that first night. I followed her once and found her standing in front of the basement door. The basement was unfinished and dark. We weren't allowed down there alone. Emma stood there with her hand on the door, whispering so quietly I couldn't hear the words. I took her back to bed and didn't sleep after that. I started noticing marks again, new ones, small scratches near vents, lines around light switches, places where the paint looked thinner, like something had brushed against it over and over. I tried scrubbing them away once. My mom asked why I was cleaning the wall. I told her I didn't know. The worst part was how Emma talked about the house. She didn't say it or there. She said here, like the house was a body and we were inside it. She talked about it being lonely, about it remembering things it wasn't supposed to remember anymore. She asked questions that didn't sound like they came from a kid. One night, months later, I heard the knocking again. 3 knocks. From inside my closet. I didn't open it. I didn't scream. I just sat on my bed, staring at the door, feeling the same cold pressure I'd felt before. Then I heard Emma's voice from the hallway, asking who was there. I ran out and told her to stop. She looked surprised, like she didn't know why I was upset. She said he just wanted to say hi. That was the first time she said he again after our parents came back. Not long after that, our dad started acting different. Nothing dramatic, just small things. He forgot where he put things, stared at walls longer than normal. Sometimes he'd stop in the hallway and look confused, like he wasn't sure how he got there. Mom said it was stress from work. Emma watched him closely when he did that. One evening, she asked him if he remembered the house from before. Dad laughed and said we'd always lived there. Emma shook her head and said, "Not like this. We moved out when I was 14. The official reason was money. The real reason was that Mom said she never felt alone in that house, even when everyone was home. She said it felt crowded in the wrong way. The new house was bright and clean and normal. And for a while, I thought we were finally safe. But Emma didn't stop listening. She pressed her ear to walls in every place we lived after that. Apartments, houses, even hotels. She said sometimes houses remember people, and sometimes people remember houses back. We don't talk about it now. We're adults. We have jobs, lives, families. But sometimes she calls me late at night and asks if I remember the knocking. She never has to explain which one. And every time, after we hang up, I hear 3 soft knocks. Not on my door, from somewhere inside the walls.
I didn't plan to understand any of this. I didn't go looking for answers. For a long time, my strategy was simple. Don't think about it. Don't talk about it. Don't listen too closely when the house makes noise. That worked for years, or at least I thought it did. I moved out when I was 18. Dorm rooms, apartments, shared houses, normal life. I told myself that if something had followed us, it would have shown itself by then. I convinced myself that the knocking was just memory, stress, old fear replaying itself when things got quiet. Emma stayed closer to home. She never liked being too far from family. I didn't push her about it. The first time I realized this wasn't over was in my late 20s. I was living alone, a small apartment, thin walls, the kind of place where you hear your neighbors breathe, so you stop questioning sounds. Until one night I heard 3 knocks. Not on the door, from inside the wall behind my bed. I didn't move. I didn't check. I didn't even sit up. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling that old pressure in my chest, That same sense that something had noticed me again after a long time of pretending I wasn't there. The next morning, I called Emma. I didn't tell her what happened. I didn't have to. She was quiet for a long time, then asked me where the knocking came from. When I told her, she said, "That means it remembers you clearly now." That was the first time she admitted it was still happening to her too. She told me that every place she lived eventually started to feel crowded. Not right away, slowly, like the house was learning her shape. She said sometimes she could feel it listening through outlets, vents, places where walls were thin. She said it didn't always knock anymore. Sometimes it just waited. I asked her why it followed us. She said it didn't. She said it never left. She said the house we grew up in wasn't the beginning. It was just where it learned our names. That's when she finally told me what she remembered from those days, the parts she'd pretended to forget. She said when Mom and Dad left us alone, the house realized we were small, that we fit, that we noticed things adults ignored. She said it didn't start as it started as a feeling, a pressure, a need to be acknowledged. And when she noticed it, when she answered it, it learned how to sound like a voice. She said it liked families, not because it loved them, but because families made patterns, routines, sleeping hours, quiet moments. She said it used those patterns to practice being close. I asked her about Dad. She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "It didn't take him. It practiced. Our father died 2 years later. A stroke, sudden. No warning signs anyone could agree on. Mom said he'd been distracted for months, forgetful, like part of him was somewhere else." Emma and I didn't talk much after that. A few weeks ago, she called me again, middle of the night. She asked if I could come stay with her for a few days. She didn't explain why. I said yes. Her house was quiet, too quiet. It felt familiar in the worst way. The air felt thick, like it used to when we were kids. She had scratch marks near the baseboards, fresh ones. She didn't try to hide them. That night, I heard the knocking, 3 times, from inside the wall between our rooms. Emma didn't react. She just sat on the bed and said, "It's okay. He already knows you're here." I asked her what it wanted. She said, "It doesn't want us. Not exactly." She said it wants someone who remembers, someone who listens. She said she'd been answering it for years, but it was getting harder. She said it wanted a voice that wasn't tired. She asked me if I remembered how it sounded when it breathed. I did. That's when I realized why it never stopped following us. It wasn't attached to the house. It was attached to whoever listened long enough to understand it. Emma fell asleep not long after that. I didn't. Just before morning, I heard the knocking again, 3 times, from inside my chest.